If you love blue eyes, prepare for a surprise. They're not actually blue. The color comes from light scattering, a phenomenon called the Tyndall effect. It's a surprisingly complex bit of physics and biology. Here's a simple sketch to show how light scatters inside the iris. Tiny, colorless particles suspended in the stroma diffuse incoming light. We'll demonstrate with a flashlight in a dark room. Normally, the beam is invisible in clean air. Add particles and suddenly the beam becomes visible. Slow motion reveals individual dust motes scattering that light. This is the Tyndall effect, scattering making light visible. Now a macro of the iris shows those same reflections and textures. Blue eyes have a low melanin stroma. That lack is critical. Microscopically, you see clear protein fibers, not blue pigment. White sunlight hits the eye, carrying all wavelengths. Some wavelengths scatter off the protein structures, changing direction. Shorter blue wavelengths scatter far more than longer reds. Violet light scatters too, but our eyes perceive blue more strongly. A comparison shows blue and violet scattering heavily, while reds pass through. Longer wavelengths like red and yellow largely pass through untouched. Our visual sensitivity curve explains why blue dominates our perception. Under a microscope, pigment looks different from scattering-based color. The same physics makes the sky appear blue. At microscopic scale, air molecules and particles scatter sunlight. Sunlight streaming through the atmosphere scatters blue light everywhere. So the stroma of your eye and the sky use the same physics. Look closely. The scattered light seems to come from all directions. A dissolve from iris to sky visually connects the two. When someone looks up, the sky can be literally reflected in their eyes. Reflections create a poetic link between eye color and the heavens. Diagrams here show how microstructure shapes the colors we perceive. In lab light, iris tissue appears clear, not inherently blue. Remove forward scattering and the blue color vanishes. Cinematic montage, eyes, sky, and sunlight tied together in slow motion. Experts have revealed that the blue hue of an iris doesn't come from pigment, but from the scattering of light. Melanin, a substance in the body responsible for the color of our skin and hair, is to blame. Brown eyes contain a high concentration of melanin, which absorbs light and creates their darker appearance. Melanin determines skin tone and appears throughout the body, not just the eyes. It creates the beautiful range of human skin colors we see. Melanin also affects hair color, from dark brown and black to lighter blondes. In the eye, melanin sits in the iris layers. Its amount determines appearance. Different amounts of melanin produce the full spectrum of eye colors. Deep brown eyes have dense melanin, absorbing much light. Blue eyes, by contrast, contain very little melanin and reflect scattered blue light. Think of melanin as nature's pigment, a palette for the iris. Iris colors can range widely: brown, amber, green, blue, and hazel. For many people, brown eyes are common and strikingly personal. The front stroma layer is packed with dark melanin pigment. When melanin is dense, incoming light is absorbed rather than scattered back. Pigmented tissues and fabrics absorb more light in bright conditions. Melanin particles soak up light, reducing the wavelengths that are reflected back. Very little light is scattered back from melanin-rich irises, so they appear dark. Up close, the pigment itself creates the brown color of the iris. Globally, brown is the most common eye color. At maximum pigmentation, an iris can look nearly black. Lighter brown and honey tones come from reduced melanin density. Compare cross-sections, one with high melanin, one with much lower levels. More melanin equals darker, more opaque brown, a simple visual scale. When melanin concentration is lower, some light scattering contributes to green and hazel hues. Amber irises sit on the lighter end of the brown spectrum. Warm, honey-brown tones result from a moderate melanin density. Melanin particles are distributed throughout brown iris tissue and define its color. Brown eyes rely on pigment, blue eyes rely on light scattering rather than pigment. Under magnification, individual melanin granules can be seen embedded in the iris. A gradient from dark brown to blue shows how melanin levels shift color across the spectrum. The blue hue of an iris doesn't come from pigment, but from the scattering of light. Brown eyes contain a high concentration of melanin, which absorbs light and makes them darker. Green eyes are rare. They have more melanin than blue eyes, but far less than brown. Only around 2% of the world's population has green eyes. Blue eyes contain very little melanin, so scattered blue light comes to dominate what we see. High melanin in brown eyes absorbs more light, producing a darker appearance. So how do green eyes form? It's essentially a mix. Scattered blue light combined with some yellow-brown pigment creates green. The stroma contains tiny light brown and yellow pigment flecks that influence color. Light scattering combined with minimal pigment reflection produces the green appearance. Both pigment absorption and light scattering are happening at the same time in green irises. Up close, you can see the yellow-brown flecks that shift the hue toward green. Side by side, the pigment difference between green and blue eyes becomes obvious. Green eyes have significantly less melanin than brown eyes, but more than blue. That middle level of pigment isn't enough to produce brown, so scattering still matters. At the microscopic level, stroma fibers scatter short wavelengths. The Tyndall effect at work. Scattered blue light blending with yellowish pigment reflections produces perceived green. This blended interaction is what you finally see in the iris color. Think of it like mixing paint. Blue plus yellow equals green. The yellow represents the melanin component in the stroma. The blue represents scattered light, not a blue pigment in the iris. Together, they produce the full range of green shades we see in people. Green eyes vary widely, from light and bright to deep and olive-toned. Brighter greens tend to have more yellowish pigment showing through. Olive tones come from slightly higher brownish melanin levels. Pale aqua greens show very little pigment alongside strong scattering. Darker greens trend toward brown as melanin increases. Each green eye is a unique mixture of pigment and light scattering. Eye color is complex genetically. Many genes determine whether eyes are green, blue, or brown. Green eyes are most commonly found in parts of Europe, especially Celtic regions. Rare and striking, green eyes are a beautiful example of genetic variation. Hazel eyes are complex. Uneven melanin creates a mosaic of color. Here's a slow pan across the iris, revealing that mosaic pattern. Quick cuts show how varied hazel can be between people. Note the green flecks toward the outer iris. Many hazel irises have a brown ring around the pupil. Compared to green eyes, hazel pigment is patchy rather than even. High detail footage shows distinct zones of melanin concentration. You can see radial patterns, different colors in different sections. A close look at the brown or amber inner ring. Some eyes show an amber ring instead of brown. This shot shows a gradual shift from brown center to green rim. Occasionally, hazel eyes show bluish tones at the outer edge. A series of cuts highlights the variety of hazel patterns. A diagram explains how patchy melanin yields a mosaic appearance. Areas with higher melanin appear brown, like brown eyes. Pale zones with low melanin appear lighter in the same iris. Animation shows light scattering in low pigment areas of the iris. That scattering creates a bluish background in some hazel areas. Other regions may look greenish where pigment is minimal. A rotating macro emphasizes the mosaic-like combination of zones. An artistic macro celebrates the intricate mosaic of colors. Same eye in sunlight versus dim light. Notice the color shift. Bright sunlight brings out green and gold flecks. Gold flecks reflect sunlight and become more prominent. In low light, the eye can appear more brown as dark areas dominate. Clothing color can subtly influence the perceived hue of hazel eyes. Dynamic cuts show hazel changing with light and clothing. A starburst brown pattern radiates from the pupil. A simple brown ring often sits surrounded by green. Final montage: gold, orange, and amber flecks. Genetic diversity on display. For years, we thought eye color was controlled by a single gene. The old model pictured brown as dominant and blue as recessive. Brown eyes contain a high concentration of melanin, which absorbs light and creates their darker appearance. Blue eyes contain very little melanin. That led to the idea one gene could overpower another. But two blue-eyed parents can sometimes have a child with green or light brown eyes. The single gene idea was only the starting point. Researchers discovered many genes determine eye color, not just one. The lone gene theory doesn't explain the variation we see. Think of genes like an orchestra. Many parts create the final color. Scientists have mapped around 16 genetic markers that influence eye color. One key gene is OCA2, which helps produce melanin. HERC2 acts as a regulator that affects OCA2 activity. Both genes sit on chromosome 15, a region linked to eye color. When OCA2 is active, it promotes melanin production in the iris. HERC2 can switch OCA2 on or off, changing melanin levels. A mutation in HERC2 can dim OCA2, reducing melanin and lightening eye color. Less melanin means shorter wavelengths like blue scatter more, producing blue hues. Many genes each add a small effect, together shaping eye color. Genetic combinations work like a lottery, many possible outcomes. This explains why children in the same family can have dramatically different eye colors. Siblings can end up with very different eye colors. Brown parents may carry hidden recessive variants for lighter eyes. When gametes combine, alleles mix unpredictably to create unique outcomes. A child may unexpectedly have blue or green eyes thanks to these combinations. Modern diagrams show many interacting genes influence a single trait. Many babies, especially with European ancestry, are born with blue or gray eyes. That's because melanin levels are still low at birth. Over months and years, melanocytes wake up and start making pigment. As pigment builds in early childhood, blue eyes can shift to green or brown. Close up, pigment accumulating and the iris gradually darkening. A common progression can be blue to green to hazel to brown as pigment increases. Generally, eye color tends to darken over time as melanin accumulates. By toddlerhood, the eye color usually settles. Through life, eyes can change subtly and rarely more noticeably. Ultimately, many genes and chance combine to give each